Okay, so if you didn't like this Galaxy Z Fold 3 from last year, there's a good chance you're not going to like this Galaxy Z Fold 4. And that's because every phone isn't made for everyone. And I've been saying this since last year that just because a product is bad for you, that doesn't automatically make it a bad product in general. So that's the same case with foldable phones like this Z Fold 4 because, look, I love this phone, but you might not like it, but you might see some use cases out of it if you are interested in this type of category. Because I honestly don't really like this as an everyday phone when I'm just like running errands and going to the store, getting in and out of my car and stuff. Because this has a candy bar shape, which still makes it chunkier than most other phones, and also the outside screen is going to be smaller than your traditional smartphone. But look, don't get me wrong, ever since I was able to hold the original Galaxy Fold, Samsung has been making improvements to the outside display to make it bigger and better. And with this outside cover display on the Z Fold 4, it still runs at 120 Hertz. It's also made out of Gorilla Glass Victus Plus this year, so it's going to be stronger and more durable. And they've also rearranged the pixels to be able to make the aspect ratio wider. So it's still 6.2 inches, just like with the Z Fold 3, but because it is wider, that does make the typing experience a little bit better. And when you are using certain apps, especially social media apps, things aren't going to feel as cramped in as they have in the past. And because Samsung has redesigned the hinge that makes the foldable display possible, the hinge is going to be slimmer and smaller, so that's going to help make the screen feel bigger. But then also this redesigned hinge will allow the phone to be about 8 grams lighter compared to the Z Fold 3. But look, I think some people are looking for Samsung to make a bigger foldable phone that might have the same aspect ratio as something like the Oppo Find N, which I've been using here for a little while, that has just a bigger cover display, even though the main larger display is smaller. I think people really love to have that cover display that they might be using more throughout the day be a little bit bigger and more normal size. And so I do believe that the Galaxy Z Flip 4 is more of the perfect everyday foldable phone. It's very compact when you fold it up and still is a great foldable phone in general. But I am used to this cover display on the Z Fold 4. It's better than last year, and all I can really ask for is Samsung to continue to make improvements, and that is what they are doing. But for me, I really don't use this screen. I'm going to be using the big 7.6 inch screen here that runs at 120 Hertz. It's a little bit more durable from last year as well, and they also made the bezels around this screen thinner as well, just like the same treatment on the outer display. And just like the cover display, this bigger 7.6 inch screen is the same size as last year's Z Fold 3, but they changed up the aspect ratio a little bit. And for me, I feel like when I am using multiple apps on the screen, things fit a little bit better. And so I really use the Z Fold 4 as a mini tablet, but it's better than all my other tablets that I have, even, yes, the iPad, because it natively runs smartphone apps, and like Instagram and stuff works better on this phone than it does work on like a tablet like the iPad. So it's kind of a mix. It's not really a smartphone for me. It's not really a full-on tablet. It's right there in the middle. And I mostly use this phone when I'm chilling at home on the couch or when I'm traveling, because it's way more compact than to pull out my iPad every single time, even my iPad mini. And because it is running smartphone apps, the multitasking is way better on this. So I like to have like Instagram and Twitter open at the same time. And because of that screen real estate, it doesn't feel so cramped. And yes, you can do the same thing on like the S22 Ultra as I'm showing you here, but it's a little too boxy, right? It really doesn't feel like you're running two apps natively side by side. But on the Z Fold 4, you do get that feeling. And then it gets even better when I add a third app like YouTube. So I can watch a YouTube video, I can be checking email, and also I can be doing some stuff on social media. So this is a great multitasking device. And then when you're done using it, you can just fold it up and put it in your pocket instead of me being at the airport having to like take out my bag and then put my iPad back in the pocket and then zip up my bag and all that other stuff. This is just way more convenient for me to use. And then this is also good for my work life because look, I'm signing a bunch of freaking NDAs and contracts all the time. And this does support the S Pen just like the Z Fold 3. So you can use the S Pen on the main display here. You still can't use it on the outside display. And then I can sign things like contracts and stuff. But also if you want to give it to your kid, and I know it's going to be kind of risky, but you can give it to your kid, allow them to draw and do stuff like that. So the S Pen support is really good. And they also have a really good case this year that has a slot there for the S Pen that you can put in. And then also when you're not using the S Pen, you also have this different attachment where you can actually use the case as a built-in stand. And so now you can prop up your Galaxy Z Fold. And that's going to be good, especially if you are using that on the plane. So this is the best case that Samsung has made for the Galaxy Z Fold, so I'm really liking it. But getting back to productivity, Samsung has been working with Microsoft and also Google to make sure their apps can run really well on a display like this on the Z Fold 4. But being straight up, the main reason why I love this big display is for consuming content, watching videos, watching movies, playing games. It's all better on this bigger screen size. And Samsung actually made this bigger display brighter this year. I think the Z Fold 3 was around like 500 nits or so, but now this one can get around 1,000 nits. So that's definitely a big jump up. And yeah, so look, when I'm watching videos and stuff on this, it just makes me really feel like this is the IMAX of smartphones. I've been saying that for years, but this is the case. And yes, the crease is still here, and you really probably can't see it because when you're looking straight down on this phone, you really can't notice the crease. But when you do tilt the phone at an angle, it still is noticeable. And now if we do take a look back at the bigger foldable display on the Oppo Find N, we will see that we really don't see a crease on this. And that's because they are using a water drop hinge to be able to achieve this. And if you are wondering why Samsung just doesn't put this same type of hinge on the Z Fold 4 to get rid of the crease, well, that's because you will be losing out on the IPX8 water resistance rating that the Z Fold 4 has, which Samsung introduced with the Z Fold 3. So you wouldn't be able to dunk it in water like I am doing my Z Fold 3. So personally, I will take the water resistance rating over having a crease. But what do you think? Which one would you choose? Let me know down in the comments. Oh, and this also is my favorite gaming smartphone too. And look, there are other phones that are marketed as gaming smartphones that come with like shoulder buttons and triggers and all these little hardware fancy tricks and stuff. But this phone is just my favorite smartphone for gaming because of the sheer size of the screen. And one of my biggest complaints is that when you are gaming traditionally on a smartphone, your thumbs and your fingers are covering up a significant portion of the screen. But because the Z Fold 3 has such a big, massive screen, this means that you can use it with your fingers and you still have a lot of stuff on the screen that you can still see. But this works even better when I am using it with a controller like the GameSir X3 controller. And because it's able to accommodate the sheer size of the screen, this is one of the best portable gaming consoles now, outside of like the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch, obviously. But because I had this big screen, it really feels like when I am playing like Xbox Game Pass games or Apex Legends or Call of Duty, like it's just way better than some of these other dedicated gaming smartphones just because of the sheer screen size. And also the fact that this does have the latest and greatest Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside of it. That's a mouthful, but this allows this phone to run games at very high resolutions and frame rates. And also the phone doesn't really get that warm as well. And then when it comes to battery life, I've been happy with it when I've been gaming or just using the phone in general. And so look, it still has the same 4400 milliamp hour battery like you got with the Z Fold 3. But I think with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset and the optimizations with One UI and also the fact that this is running on Android 12L, I'm getting anywhere from a couple to a few more hours of use compared to the Z Fold 3. Now, I didn't do any like extensive battery tests with this, but I use my Z Fold 3 a lot, and I can tell by the end of the day with the Z Fold 4, I still feel very comfortable with continuing to use it without reaching for my wireless charger or anything. So yeah, the battery life is pretty good. Now, I just mentioned Android 12L, which is a version of Android 12 that is kind of made for bigger screens and foldable phones like this. So this means that developers are going to be able to optimize their apps a little bit better to be able to scale up to different size foldable screens. But then also too, with this combination of One UI, I really feel like there's not a bunch of like really big new features inside of the software, more so optimizations to make things better. But one of my favorite new software features this year because of Android 12L is this new taskbar that shows up at the bottom when you do open up an app. So this basically mimics the same kind of taskbar that you have here on your home screen. And basically it does also show some of the more recently used apps that you use on the right-hand side. But I like this because it makes multitasking so much easier because you can quickly switch between these apps. And I did a little test when I got my hands on in New York where I was like really doing this very rapidly and it was able to keep up. And that's partly due to that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 as well. And so this makes multitasking basically like it is on a computer. And look, I'm all here for it. This is the best multitasking setup on a smartphone that I've used. And you still do have that little swipe over to bring over some of your other favorite apps and things that you have, like some of your app pairs. You still have that that you can do as well in addition to the taskbar. And also in the lab section in the settings app, you'll find a couple of more ways to be able to initiate the split screen view. So I have one way initiated where I can just swipe up from the bottom with 2 fingers to be able to bring up the apps that I can now select to be able to have this split screen view. So I don't care what anyone says. It's really cool to be able to play Call of Duty and also watch a YouTube video at the same time without feeling cramped. Oh, and I have another bonus tip for you. If you are wanting to control the volume for each individual app, you can download the Good Lock application from the Samsung Galaxy Store, and then you go into the Family tab, and then you download the Sound Assistant add-on, and now you can individually control the volume for Call of Duty or YouTube in my case. And I do wish that Samsung builds this functionality into One UI itself, so I'll be able to activate this in the volume control panel. All right, so now let's talk about camera improvements. So I am recording this little bit using the front-facing camera on the outside cover display. I'm recording this at 4K 60 frames per second. I think the video looks good on all of the cameras in general. But yeah, as far as this outside cover display, it still comes in at 10 megapixels, just like on the Z Fold 3. But on the back with the rear-facing cameras, we do have some differences this year. And first, starting with the main wide-angle camera, it is bumped up from 12 megapixels to 50 megapixels now compared to last year. And then also the telephoto is bumped up from 2 times optical zoom to 3 times optical zoom. And for the ultra-wide camera, the megapixel count remains unchanged. It still comes in at 12 megapixels. But generally with the photos, you are getting an improvement this year. One, with the low light capabilities, because you do have bigger sensors, so that's going to allow for more light to come into these cameras. So I found that the nighttime shots that I'm showing you right now came out really well. And that's the case when I'm just using the regular photo mode and also the dedicated night mode. But then when you do have plenty of sunlight, this camera still does a really good job, because I do find that compared to the Z Fold 3 and even the S22 Ultra, that it does handle highlights and the exposure a little bit better sometimes. And also the general color of the photos doesn't seem as punchy as it has been in the past. I think my skin tones do look better when I am taking selfies. But I will tell you that I have no problem sharing the videos that I can take with the rear-facing camera setup. So you can still take 4K video up to 60 frames per second. It still looks really good. You still have that optional super steady mode where you can really get some very stabilized footage at a decrease in resolution, but it still looks good. But also you can still take 8K video up to 24 frames per second. I don't do it that often, but you can see here you still can get some really solid results. And then we're also still getting these unique features with the Z Fold 4 when it comes to taking photos, like being able to use the outside cover display as a selfie mirror, because you can turn on that display and try to take a selfie with the rear-facing cameras, or better yet, when you are taking a photo of someone and they always trying to make sure their hair is properly in place, they can use that cover display to be able to make sure they look good before you snap that photo. And then I really like just being able to put this phone in flex mode and have the camera preview at the top part of the screen, and then also on the bottom part of the screen on the left hand side I can have a preview of the previous photos that I just took, and then also on the right hand side I can have the different controls. So I love using it in this mode. And so look, I'm really happy with this camera system. It's better than last year, but my only gripe would be that it doesn't have those exact camera features that you get with the S22 Ultra. And so yeah, I wish this phone had the 108 megapixel camera like the S22 Ultra. And also, even though the Z Fold 4 does have 30 times space zoom, which is good, I wish it did have the 100 times space zoom like the S22 Ultra. And look, I know that when you do max out the 100 times space zoom, it looks pretty crappy, but the sweet spot for that was around 30 times zoom, where with the Z Fold 4 at 30 times space zoom, it still looks crappy as well. But the sweet spot is between 10 and 15 times zoom. And because I am someone who likes to take a lot of photos zoomed in, especially when I'm traveling and visiting other places and I can't get close up to my subject, I just really want to see Samsung release maybe like a Z Fold 4 Pro or Ultra edition, where it has the same exact camera setup as the S22 Ultra, even if I have to pay a little bit more for that, because look, we're already paying over $1,800. So I just want to have the best camera system that Samsung makes all the time on the most expensive Samsung phone that I can buy right now. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the under display camera that's on the main display is back this year. So this basically is kind of an invisible camera. It's not totally invisible, but Samsung has been able to pack the pixels a little bit tighter this year. So it's less noticeable just by a little bit than last year's Z Fold 3. But when you're not looking for it, it is really cool, because when you are watching videos or playing a game, I don't notice it at all. But when you are looking for it, you definitely can still see it. And as far as quality, you can see in this selfie comparison, it's actually better than last year's under display camera. So that's a good thing. But I'm still going to be reaching for the front-facing camera on the cover display when I do want to take a selfie to be able to share on the gram or anywhere else. But look, what Samsung has done with this phone is that they've given you the tools to do practically anything that you really need as far as productivity. You have Samsung Dex still in this thing that turns it basically into a laptop or a portable desktop. You have great software optimizations, and I think that's really what the Z Fold 4 is compared to the Z Fold 3. It's a more optimized version of the Z Fold 3. You don't really have like any major design differences here. I think the phone on the back still kind of looks a little plain, but I'm liking this gray-green color this year, and they also have like a white color and also phantom black. But I think next year with the Z Fold 5, we might see some more drastic hardware changes. Oh, and if the $1,800 price tag is a concern for you, Samsung has the best trade-in deals for your previous foldable phones. So you can trade in the Z Fold 3 and get $1,000 off of this Z Fold 4. So you're only paying $800. And then they also give you like credit to get earbuds and watches and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, if you do plan on upgrading every year, you're not going to pay full price for this phone. You can get some really good deals. And even on like the Z Flip 4 that starts at $1,000, I think if you trade in the Z Flip 3, you get like $800 or $900 back. So it's pretty ridiculous, but in a good way. And so look, overall, I think Samsung has done a really good job with this phone. And I know some people are looking at it as not being a big update compared to the Z Fold 3, but I will tell you, no one else in the US is really making foldable phones. So it's either that they still are kind of hard to do and upgrading features can't really come as fast as maybe as we want. But ultimately, I do want to see Samsung get some more competition from other players, maybe like Google. The Pixel Fold is actually a rumor that's floating around, and also maybe Apple and stuff, because that will just make everyone have to push themselves even harder. And at the end of the day, us consumers do win. But for right now, if you're looking for kind of the king of foldable phones, to me right now, it is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. And I'm liking it, but what do you think? Leave your comment down below. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video. Make sure you give this video a like if you did like it, and I will catch you later. Peace. I'm glad I didn't drop that.